Today I'm going to talk about understanding movement analysis and how screening can prevent injuries in sport. I will be talking about the main injuries and the need of mobility screens in injury prevention for a case study of a 20-year-old female soccer player. As we know, soccer is a global sport. It usually involves the lower extremities. Common means of injuries are usually on the high demands of the sport that involve tackling, running, kicking, twisting, turning, jumping and landing. Common injury mechanisms in soccer usually arise from running and tackling among other motions. It fascinated me that non-contact injuries such as sprinting and landing are more common than contact ones. What contributes to injuries was basically leg dominance asymmetry contributes to the imbalance of weight distribution between both sides of the body. This can lead to muscle imbalance and forces addressing one side of the body more than the other, increasing injuries. Females have a higher risk factor of ACL injuries also. Why do we need movement screens in the strength and conditioning world? Well, designing good training program depends on the movement screens. Eventually, our goal is to improve the athletic performance by helping to find any injury risks or asymmetries or defects in the body. Reduction in internal rotation has been associated with ACL injuries. Limited ankle range of motion results from restricted soleus mobility and can have lower extremity pathologies like Achilles tendonitis, calf muscle strains, ankle ligaments and tendon injuries. It has also been noted that hamstring injuries that reoccur create stiffness, overall general stiffness in the leg. Types of movement screens. We will use a range of motion screen analysis by active movement base and a conditioning movement base screen. These screens are dependable if used correctly. I will also use a IMU unit which is reliable and has fidelity in its research. My case study was a 20-year-old female soccer player with a history of mild right hamstring injuries, but lately ankle stiffness, especially first thing in the morning. She's also aware that ACLs are high in female and would like to make sure she addresses any weakness that could contribute to this. Testing procedures. We will perform 3 specific tests: the active knee extension test, the hip range of motion test, internal and external, and then the weight bearing dorsiflexion lunge test. I will take the average of 3 repetitions for each, and then I will compare it to the norm data. The results and comparison with the norms show the active knee extension test. This is a 1990 active knee extension and it evaluates the hamstring flexibility. This assessment is designed to measure the level of active knee extension possible while the hip is flexed. This is crucial for movements such as running and kicking. The average was 69.75 degrees, but the norm is 78 degrees. This shows that she is an 8.25 degree, indicating a need for improved hamstring flexibility. It is also made aware that her left is less flexible. The second test was the hip rotation, internal and external rotation. External rotation involves the pelvis and the femur. It is well known that this interaction has surrounding soft tissues impact of the hip joint. In her test, her average was 33.5, but the norm is 50 to 60 degrees. This is another indication below the average range by a 16.5 degrees, indicating a deficiency in external hip flexibility. This is where injuries like groins could occur. The hip internal rotation. This is an activity of the glute maximus, and this is very crucial in managing lower body mechanics. Assessing glute max activity and the angle of internal rotation is vital in preventing knee injuries, especially related to running, jumping and landing. Often associated with defects is the quadriceps. Therefore, it's very important to focus on strengthening the glute max during the rehabilitation of running-related knee injuries. The internal rotation average for my client was 29.25, with the norm being 35 to 40 degrees. This is again below the norm range of 5.75 degrees, also showing a need of improvement in hip internal rotation. Her left side was also less than her right. Finally, the last test we looked at was the weighted bearing dorsiflexion lunge test. The activity of the weight bearing lunge test is reliable way to evaluate the ankle dorsiflexion range of motion. This test can determine the link between ankle dorsiflexion measurements and the likelihood of non-contact lower extremity injuries. Lack of ankle dorsiflexion can change how the body moves and how the weight is distributed, which could result in injuries caused by compensating for the deficiencies. The average norm for my client was a 24.5 degrees. However, the norm value was 34. This again suggests that she is below the norm by 9.5, indicating restricted ankle flexibility. There also was a difference between the left leg and the right side of the athlete's body in all the movements. The left side has less range of motion than the right side, with a significant difference of 8 degrees. This is very important to address, especially in her strength and rehabilitation program. So the rationale for my program is a stretching program. As we all know, stretching increases the range of motion. However, I want to improve her test scores, prevent injuries and enhance range of motions by target stretching, mostly by using static stretching and dynamic stretching. Static stretching has been shown to be more effective than dynamic stretching for those recovering from hamstring strains. In addition, it has been reported that athletes with hamstring strains recover faster by performing more intense stretching than performing less intense stretching. However, it is known that static stretching should not be done before intense workout. The effects of stretching on muscle properties are clearly described in literature and depends on various factors, including stretching techniques, stretching times, retention time, and rest time. Most studies investigate the effects of static stretching on passive properties of the muscle tendon unit. In a series of studies by Magnus et al., it was shown that static stretching for 90 seconds over 5 repetitions, reduced muscle resistance, passive stiffness, peak torque, and stress relaxation. So taking these into account, stretching parameters and the program design will take place not only in dynamic stretching but static stretching. The client is advised to do all dynamic stretching before she plays her sports, training and games. The 2 days that she has off will focus on a static stretching regime between 60 to 90 second stretch, holding for 15 seconds, then for resting for 15 seconds. Repeat by 5 times. This is important that she does it on days that she is not training. The stretching program that I have designed will be a downward dog for the hamstrings. It will be a kneeling quad and reach lunge for the quadriceps. The frog pose for the groins. This will help external rotation. Then we have the glutes of the 90-90. So we will have a static stretch and then can progress this to a dynamic afterwards. The calf muscle will be a soleus stretch. In conclusion, we will do this for a 4-week period to see if we can improve on any of the data that we found. In conclusion, movement screens and stretching are consistent in spotting and reducing injury risks. There is no strong data connecting increased flexibility to perform better. However, techniques are essential for a well-balanced program and can help with her season ahead. It is noted that stretching alone will not improve her performance, but with assistance of a strength program, we can create a better all program for her. Thank you.